So, lads, the Fever are officially in the playoffs right now. After a crazy season.
What if the biggest star in basketball history was actually a curse for her own team? Everyone believed Caitlin Clark's arrival would be the salvation of the Indiana Fever and the WNBA. They saw record ticket sales, skyrocketing viewership, and a new golden era for women's basketball. But what they didn't see was the secret war brewing just beneath the surface. A war of jealousy, brutal physicality, and shocking betrayal that threatens to burn the entire league down from the inside. The story you've been told about Caitlin Clark is a lie. The real story is far darker, filled with locker room conspiracies, financial envy, and a level of animosity that no one was prepared for.
Playoffs, Dub!
How we clinch, baby!
We can't! W. Playoffs! Bow! Yeah! Playoffs, baby!
From the moment Clark stepped onto a professional court, the Indiana Fever seemed fundamentally broken. It wasn't just the mounting losses, it was the entire visual, the jarring on-court chemistry that felt forced and unnatural. Aaliyah Boston, last year's unanimous #1 pick and the supposed cornerstone of the franchise's future, suddenly looked like a ghost. She was relegated to a supporting role, seemingly lost in an offense that was now entirely and unapologetically revolving around a rookie. Whispers immediately started spreading through the league. The veterans weren't happy. These were women who had clawed their way to the top for years with little fanfare, and now a single player was getting all the credit, all the shots, and all the media attention before she'd even proven a single thing in the pros. The invisible tension was palpable, but it was about to manifest in a way that would shock the world.
At the start of the season, you would have given him no chance to make the playoffs. If you would have said Caitlin Clark plays 13 games and she is healthy for none of them. Caitlin's injured the entire season. She plays 13 games at about 50%. If you had said, DeWanna Bonner quit on the team after 6 games. If you had said, the Fever were going to get a hardship replacement for Caitlin. And then, if you were to say, Fever were going to get a hardship replacement for Caitlin. And then her and Sid Colson were going to get injured for the season in the same game. And then if you had said that, they were getting hardships. So if you were saying both point guards, and they're not even hardships. Ari McDonald is a hardship. Odyssey Sims is a hardship for a hardship. And then Shea Petty is fifth hardship for hardship.
Caught in the crossfire of this simmering conflict was head coach Christy Sides. She was handed a golden ticket in Caitlin Clark, but quickly discovered it was poisoned. Every decision she made was scrutinized under a global microscope. If she benched Clark for a defensive mistake, she was accused of sabotaging her own star. If she let Clark play through her errors, she was criticized for not holding her accountable and alienating the rest of the team. Leaks from the locker room suggested a team divided, with veterans frustrated by the different set of rules that seemed to apply to the rookie sensation. Sides was trapped in an impossible situation, trying to manage the fragile egos of her veteran players, while also developing the most famous rookie in sports history, all while the front office undoubtedly pressured her to maximize the Caitlin Clark show for ticket sales. She wasn't just coaching a basketball team, she was managing a full-blown crisis, and the cracks were beginning to show everywhere. The resentment wasn't just about playing time or media hype, it was about cold hard cash. Before Caitlin Clark ever played a WNBA game, she had already signed a staggering $28 million endorsement deal with Nike, on top of other massive contracts with Gatorade, State Farm, and Wilson. To put that in perspective, her off-court earnings dwarfed the salaries of the league's most decorated veterans, women who had won championships and MVP awards. Many of these established stars spend their off-seasons playing for teams in Europe or Asia just to make a decent living. Now, they were forced to watch a rookie who was struggling on the court become wealthier than all of them combined. This financial disparity created a deep, toxic envy that no amount of team meetings could ever fix. It transformed professional competition into something deeply personal and intensely bitter. The message was clear: your years of hard work don't matter as much as her celebrity.
I mean, she's so crafty with her shot decisions. Howard right to the hoop pile.
Adding fuel to this raging fire was the media's relentless need to crown her as the singular savior of the sport, often by comparing her to male legends like Steph Curry or even Michael Jordan. This not only placed an impossible burden on a 22-year-old rookie, but also served as a DMN slap in the face to the WNBA legends who had built the league. No one felt this more acutely than Diana Taurasi, the league's all-time leading scorer. Before the season even began, Taurasi sent a chilling warning on national television: reality is coming. It wasn't advice, it wasn't a threat. The old guard, represented by icons like Taurasi, felt their legacies were being erased. They believed Clark hadn't earned the right to be placed on their level, let alone above them. This brewing storm of professional pride and personal disrespect was about to erupt from veiled comments into open on-court warfare. The declaration of war came on a Saturday afternoon in Chicago. In a moment that would be replayed and analyzed millions of times, Cheney Tartar didn't just foul Caitlin Clark, she blindsided her. Away from the ball, with no basketball play in sight, she leveled Clark with a vicious shoulder check, a move that had nothing to do with defense and everything to do with sending a message. Carter then called her an effing bitch. After the game, she refused to answer questions about it, while her teammate Angel Reese was seen celebrating the cheap shot from the sidelines before being fined for skipping her media obligations. A line had been drawn in the sand. This wasn't a welcome to the league moment. This was a calculated physical assault meant to intimidate and injure. The league's old guard was making its stance brutally clear. We don't care about your fame, your records, or the new fans you brought in. In this league, you will be broken. That single hit ignited a firestorm that weaponized the fans. A new legion of Clark fans, many of whom had never watched a WNBA game before, flooded social media, attacking any player who dared to be physical with their hero. They were accused by longtime WNBA fans of being tourists who didn't understand the league's physical culture. In turn, they accused the league's existing fan base of being bitter haters. The online discourse became a toxic war zone, dividing the very audience the WNBA was trying to unite. Players like Dejanai Carrington of the Connecticut Sun were mercilessly trolled and harassed for taunting Clark after a defensive stop. The battle was no longer just on the court, it was a full-scale digital war, and every hard foul on Clark was another bomb dropped on the league's already fractured community. Suddenly, the entire conversation was no longer about basketball. The media frenzy morphed into a volatile debate about race, privilege, and protection. Commentators screamed that the league had a duty to protect its asset, but that phrase only fueled the bitter resentment. Many veteran players, the majority of whom are black women who had endured years of brutal, unpenalized physicality, saw this as the ultimate hypocrisy. They felt the world was only calling for special protection now because the new face of the league was a white player. The WNBA was trapped in a PR nightmare. If they suspended players for being physical with Clark, they'd be accused of blatant favoritism. If they did nothing, they'd be accused of letting their biggest star get systematically dismantled by jealous rivals. The Indiana Fever were no longer just a basketball team. They were the epicenter of a raging cultural war, a war that was making the league more money than ever before. This led to a dark, cynical question. Was the WNBA secretly loving this chaos? Controversy sells. Every cheap shot, every hostile quote, every online debate drove engagement through the roof. Ratings were shattering records, arenas were selling out, merchandise was flying off the shelves. A quiet, successful season for Caitlin Clark would have been good for business, but a dramatic, controversy-filled season was a financial goldmine. Whispers began to surface that the league office was intentionally fanning the flames, issuing weak punishments for flagrant fouls to ensure the drama continued. From a purely business perspective, the conflict was the product. The league seemed willing to sacrifice its own integrity and the well-being of its players for a surge in profits, turning the sport into a reality TV show with Clark as its unwilling star. And just when it seemed the situation couldn't get any more toxic, the ultimate betrayal was unveiled. In a decision that sent shockwaves through the entire global sports world, Caitlin Clark was left off the Team USA Olympic roster. The official excuse was a desperate need for veteran experience and pre-existing team chemistry, but absolutely nobody was buying it. Insiders immediately began leaking stories that some of the most powerful veteran players in the league, the same ones who disliked the media circus, had actively lobbied to keep her off the team. They didn't want the Caitlin Clark show distracting them in Paris. It was a stunning act of defiance. The very players who stood to benefit most from the new money and attention she was generating conspired to keep her off the world's biggest stage. It was the ultimate power play, a move that proved the resentment toward her ran so deep that some were willing to damage the league's own growth just to keep her in what they considered her place. This is the brutal, chaotic reality the Indiana Fever now faces every single day. The world is obsessed with the Caitlin Clark soap opera, either defending her or attacking her, but they've completely forgotten about everyone else on that team. Players like Kelsey Mitchell, Erica Wheeler, and even Lexie Hull are forced to navigate a season where they are treated like irrelevant background actors in someone else's drama. Their biggest challenge isn't the team they face on the court, it's surviving the DM media storm, the locker room tensions, and the league-wide animosity that follows their star player into every arena she enters. The original question was whether the Fever could win with Caitlin Clark, but now, a much darker question has emerged. Can they even survive her? The success of this grand experiment won't be measured in playoff appearances, but in whether the Indiana Fever can find a way to become a team again, or if they will be the first and most prominent casualty in the ugly, bitter war that Caitlin Clark started just by showing up.